Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica with Memory Box Candle Co. And I make videos all about the journey of starting a candle business. In today's video, I wanted to take a little walk down memory lane, just kind of looking back at my candle making practices, how I used to make candles, how my candle business has evolved over the years. So what I decided to do was I just went through, and I'm going to be reading my notes for this video because I don't want to forget anything, but I just went through and I just thought of everything that's kind of adapted and changed. And, since the very beginning of me getting started with this candle business back in late 2019, because obviously so much has changed. So I just kind of wanted to take you back from the very beginning and just let you know the process of both the candle making and the business side of things and how things have changed and evolved over the years. Hi, it's me, just interrupting this video real fast just to let you know that I do offer a handmade business planner for any business owner that is looking to get organized. I have a digital planner template that you're able to use to help with organization, planning, and structure within your weekly routine. I know how overwhelming it can be, and this has really helped me. So if you're looking for something like this, go ahead and click on the first link in the description box below. So let's take it way back to the end of 2019. So 2019, I believe it was September of 2019, that's when I really decided that I want to turn this into a business. So I want to start my own candle business. And that was also when I decided to also document my process on YouTube as well. So if you go back to my very first video on my channel, you will be able to find my very first video of me on my balcony talking about wanting to start a candle business. And that is actually how I got started, was making candles on my balcony, because it was the only way that I was able to make candles without feeling that like suffocation feeling. Knowing now, I understand the proper ventilation you need to have. I wear a respirator now so I can make candles inside. But at the time, I didn't really know about that. And I think I was also maybe potentially inhaling some of the fragrances while I was pouring and blending and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot to learn during that time. But I did actually get started with making candles using the 9-ounce straight-sided jars. And I believed I used some form of Eco Wick. Maybe it was like an Eco 10 or an Eco 12 in those. I don't remember exactly. But that was kind of how I was getting started until I found the matte black jars from California Candle Supply. And those are the jars that I still use to this day. So with that, technically nothing has changed, but there have been a lot of changes in terms of the wax formulas and the fragrance oil percentages and all of that. And I will get into that a little bit later on in this video. But basically in the very beginning, it was a matter of double boiling everything. So I double boiled up until the first couple of months of me actually being in business, which is so crazy to think about, having to double boil everything. I couldn't even imagine having to do that now. That would just be crazy to have to do that. But at the time, I wasn't really selling that much. I wasn't having that much in stock at once. So to have to double boil the candles that I had in stock, it wasn't super terrible, but it was definitely, a lot of work to do. But I do remember in the very beginning that I would only heat up the wax up to about 180 to 185 and then pour in the fragrance oil, which looking back now, as you know, I've mentioned in very recent videos that I'm very particular about the temperature that the fragrance oil is binded to the wax at, because I want to make sure that it is actually binding with the wax and that it's not going to cause any cold throw or hot throw issues or anything like that. And what I had noticed is that when I added in the temperature, or when I added in the fragrance oil to this lower temperature, that I would notice that the cold throw wasn't that great. And also there was like this weird glossy hexagon spiderwebby kind of shape on top of all of my candles. And that was definitely something that I noticed as well. Also, with making my candles out on the balcony, this is like so crazy to me too, just because temperature is such an important part of candle making. But of course, at the time, it wasn't something that I know as much as I know now, but I do remember a lot of times the shrinkage of my wax and the pulling from the containers were really bad, because of course I'm making candles outside when it's, 50, 60 degrees outside. It's cold, so candles are cooling down super, super quickly. And of course, when it comes to candle making, you want to make sure that you're regulating the temperature in the room to try to slow down that process of the cooling process so that it's not pulling away from the sides of the jar. So probably around the beginning of 2020, I ended up moving everything back into my apartment, and specifically into the kitchen area of my apartment, which I'm sure a lot of you have gotten started making candles in your kitchen. It's kind of that place to get started. So that is where I ended up doing a lot of, the double boiling, making my candles, getting them kind of situated on my rack that I was able to put into the it's technically like the dining room area of the apartment, but I had a rack over there, and I was able to start, keeping track of my inventory and keeping track of everything over there. And when I launched my business, I actually launched on Etsy. I didn't have my own website first. So this is definitely something that was different than it is now, absolutely, being on Etsy versus having my own website. So I launched my business. It was the very end of March of 2020, so it was shortly after the pandemic started, and I almost didn't launch my business, but I decided to, and I'm very happy that I did. So I launched my Etsy business on the end of March, and then by May of 2020, I actually got my first Presto pot. So if you're not familiar with what a Presto pot is, it's basically like a large cooking pot. And my first one that I had did not have the little spigot, did not have like the, where you could have, turn the nozzle and have wax come out of it like the Digivoil has. I actually used a ladle. So I used a ladle to ladle it into the pouring pitcher and to measure everything out that way before adding in the fragrance oil. But that was a lot faster than double boiling. So that was kind of my first step into growing with the business, to be able to make more candles at a time, because I had to get away from the double boiling. And as soon as I got that Presto pot, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? This is so much better. So at this time, I was actually still just using only soy 10 in my candles. And I believe I was using 2 Eco 2 wicks, which is just, it's crazy to me thinking about that now, because I know that that would burn way too hot. But at the time, I had spent months and months and months wick testing. I was trying out just a single wick in those jars, and I could not figure out a way to be able to have it burn properly and have it burn the way that I wanted it to, until it was recommended to me to actually do 2 wicks in there. And now, of course, over the years, I've learned a lot more about, the way that the different series of wicks burns. Double wicking, I'm a lot more comfortable with, and I understand kind of the scientific makeup of it, and the melt point of the wax that you're working with. All that kind of stuff can go into play. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, this finally is burning so much better than anything else. So that is what I had launched with. And again, thinking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that I had launched with that. And I actually had also used another size. I believe it was the 10-ounce Cali jars from California Candle Supply. And that one was only a single wick. And that one I didn't have available for very long. I don't know how many I sold, but I did sell some, on my Etsy shop. And I just wasn't ever happy with the way that they were burning. If I did a certain wick size, that would seem underwicked to me. And then if I did the size up, it was overwicked. And it was causing me a lot of stress. So I just ended up getting rid of that and then moving over to the matte black tins that, again, I use right now as well. And I spent a lot of time trying to find a single wick for that one as well. And that one didn't work either. So I had to do double wicks on that one as well. So 2020 overall in my business was a fantastic year, even given the circumstance of everything. And I will say, I think that it had a lot to do with the fact that so many people were getting unemployment, had the stimulus checks. Like, as much as there was so much going on at that time, I feel like a lot of people had a lot more money at that time than they did, like even now, even now in 2023. I don't know, maybe you feel differently about that, but I definitely feel like that was the case. And also with people, just online and shopping and not really, leaving the house as much. So they're online so much more, on Instagram so much more, on YouTube so much more. And of course I was growing on YouTube at the time like crazy. So that was marketing and promotion and growing on Instagram simultaneously. So, there was a lot that went into that, but I had a really good year that year. And anytime I did any kind of, release or anything, it's like for the first time, it's new and I'm releasing it for the first time. And, just so much support and so many sales from that experience. And 2020 overall for business wise was a really good year. Now moving into 2021, this year was definitely different for me, but it was good. It was a good year, but it was also a very eye-opening year for me. So in 2021, I actually started experimenting with blending my waxes, so creating my own wax blend for my container wax. And I was really just starting to get a little too stressed out about the fact that I felt like my candles were burning too hot. So I actually ended up settling on blending in some of my tart wax, which is TW30, into my soy 10. So for a little while, I think I was doing a 50-50 blend of that. And I think that I also had changed my wicks from Eco 2s to Eco 1s. And that was kind of my first step in the direction of, okay, I'm trying to learn the wax blends. I'm trying to understand how my candles are going to perform when I'm changing, these different variables and trying to have it burn, cooler than what it was. And, again, this was a really stressful time for me. I think I remember making videos on it and I just started feeling really, like down on myself. I remember thinking like, oh my God, I'm like an imposter. I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't even sell a good product. Like, I just remember that 2021 was definitely like this, where I was starting to get more experience with candle making, with the candle business. And I was just starting to learn a lot more with it, especially in terms of the testing process. And I started just realizing that, oh my gosh, what if, I'm just selling a really terrible product, or, I just started getting really down on myself about that and just overthinking. But honestly, it was really good for me to do because, yeah, I really needed to change and adjust and be able to change up my formula and make sure that I was selling a safe candle because, as you know, that's definitely what I preach now. Make sure that you are selling a safe candle. I kind of had gone to the opposite end with this because I was trying so hard to make it to where my candles weren't going to be overwicked, so much so that I kind of went on the opposite side and I ended up making candles that were a little underwicked and causing tunneling. And then I had customers reaching out about that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really have to try to figure out this middle ground, or as close to a middle ground that I possibly can. So also during this time of 2021 on the business side, this is when I hired my business attorney and I incorporated my business. So that was a massive step in the business. It was such a pivotal moment for me, not only as a business owner, but just as a person, as an individual who is growing and learning and, just going through so many changes as I'm growing up and, I'm doing this all myself, and I'm making the choice to do this and paying the money to do this. And, it was just so much for me. But I was very happy to be able to do that. And then this was also the time that we found out that the manufacturer of our wax is about 20 minutes down the street from us. So that was an incredible thing to find out. So we were able to purchase our very first large amount of wax directly from the manufacturer. Also in 2021, I launched my Shopify store. So a year anniversary of launching my business. So the end of March of 2021 is when I launched my Shopify store. And that was honestly probably one of the biggest sales days that we've had so far in Memory Box Candle Co. It was such a massive success opening up that online store and switching everything over. And that was definitely probably one of the biggest highlights I can remember of being in business so far. And then also, I got a digiboil. So I got my digiboil for the first time in the summer of 2021. So I can't believe I've already been using these for almost 2 years now. And that was something that I was really excited about and realized, oh my gosh, I can hold so much more wax in here. This is fantastic. And I slowly started transitioning all of my Presto pots into the digiboils. Now, fall of 2021, this is when kind of the reality of everything set in, because you had the pandemic, you had all of the stimulus checks and unemployment and all this like craziness going on. And then at the end of 2021, I want to say that things were starting, I can't remember exactly, starting to be a little bit more normal. Maybe, I can't remember exactly. Things were opening up. And I remember launching my fall collection of 2021, and it did not do nearly as well as the year before. And I'm like, okay, so what was the issue? And I was trying to, figure it out. I think I even posted a video about it. But I just started seeing changes from there. So as soon as fall of 2021 hit, I started noticing the changes in terms of how much I was actually making from my launches, and, just every day in sales and just sales in general had gone down. And this was kind of like a wake-up call for me, because I'm like, okay, I can't just rely on, the hype of everything going on and, everybody being home. And once things started kind of going back to normal, because when I launched my business at the start of the pandemic, I didn't know what normal was in terms of the economy and how my business was going to do. So that was definitely something that I was thinking about as I was going into 2022. So 2022 was more focused on wholesale clients and doing local markets. So it was the first year that I really kind of got a good amount of wholesale clients in the year to, work hand in hand with, some of those being white label, and also doing local markets. So this is when Chris started really becoming a lot more invested and, us doing the business together. I feel like it's weird saying I now with the business. It's so we, it's so us now. It's not just me. But this is when it started becoming more we together, because of him being there at the local markets and, being such a huge part of that and learning so much more. That was 2022 was our first kind of full year of doing local markets and really being able to grow more within the community. And, that helped to spark more local sales. And every time we go to markets now, we have returning customers no matter where we go. And so at this point, I believe in 2022, I had gotten my new formula down with my candle making, got rid of the TW30. Don't know, I still, thinking back now, I'm like, well, why did I add that in there? And I just do the soy 10 and beeswax added in, and that is something that I have stuck with still with the Eco 1 Wicks, and it seems to be doing pretty good so far. I may tweak it a little bit in the future, but I've gotten so much more comfortable with wax blends and understanding how, everything works in that way. And that just took time. That just took a lot of time. Obviously it's been 3.5, almost 4 years of candle making for me. So it definitely takes some time to really understand that. And then, so for 2022, if we're looking at the end of 2022, which was the fall time, this is really when Chris started becoming so much more involved with the business, specifically in October of 2022. And that was also one of our more successful seasons because of some very large wholesale and white label orders, along with all of just the regular direct-to-consumer orders on the website, you know, with having it be around the holidays, it's always a good time. And also with doing local markets too, as well, which we were doing a lot of. So all of that combined just really ended up being very good, profitable season for us last year, which was, you know, 2022. And then now that brings us to 2023. So we were maybe a week in to 2023. I am pregnant, and so of course that is changing some things. And we knew, you know, going into the year that that was a goal, that was something that we were wanting. And, you know, we understand that that's going to change things within the business. But with Chris knowing as much as he knows and being able to be this involved in the business, it has helped so much, not only through all the nausea and all of that with making candles, but just with, you know, the support, just so much support with this, and allowing me to work on other parts of the business when he can work on a lot of like the inventory, the shipping, the making side, all of that kind of stuff. And he's just such an incredible worker. And, you know, we obviously have to adjust our goals and our plans for the business, but we definitely are looking and wanting to keep moving forward with it, even after baby is here. And I think that we have set a really good foundation with working together, and the fact that he already knows everything, and it's not like I'm trying to, you know, teach him everything right now. That's not even a stress or not even something that I'm thinking of. And then just focusing more on wholesale, white label, and then also a new candle line that we are focusing on to have more sense, just more variety and more, you know, just something new. Well, we haven't brought something new to the business in so long. I feel like it's been the same thing every year. And being able to bring something new and fun and exciting to the business, I feel like is going to do a lot for kind of, you know, just Memory Box Candle Co. And, you know, just always changing, always evolving, always trying to make things better. And yeah, so I think that that is a good rundown of the last couple of years. Yes, I know this video is a little bit longer. I'm like, oh man, I wasn't wanting it to be this long, but that's okay. So if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, if you want to share your story of what you've learned so far, things that you've changed, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. But with that, I'm going to end today's video right here. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at Memory Box Candle Co. And I will see you in my next video.